I'm highly optimistic about tomorrow. I believe we have turned the corner, and inshallah we shall have a very robust economic activities in the new year. I believe Nigerians will prosper. The economy has started picking up, and in the coming weeks and months, Nigerians will start smiling for the better. We are working assiduously with the National Assembly to come up with robust solutions to our national challenges. There is no nation that is immune to the economic headwinds across the world. The crisis in Ukraine and so many other global trends are affecting us adversely because we are part of the global community. But I want to assure Nigerians that the economy is turning the corner.
Sure.
By the grace of God, we have crossed the Rubicon and we are on a path to sustain growth. We wish Nigerians well.
A very positive Vice President Kashim Shettima there, and of course with the members of the National Assembly when they went to visit the president in Lagos, part of the courtesy visits that happened to the president around this time of year. It's normal. If he was in the villa in Abuja, the place would be inundated with guests as well. That is exactly how it works during the Yuletide. But we've crossed the Rubicon on our pathway to success and progress as a people. Is the worst over? And other details in the president's New Year message to the Nigerian people will make up our conversations this second segment of Sunrise Daily. And joining me, it's Thursday. We've got Mr. Laolu Akande with us in the studio, former presidential aide and host of Inside Sources right here on Channels Television. Thank you so much for being with us. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. We just wrapped up a conversation about young people and the Confab, which is something that the president talked about. But before that, let me get your thoughts on what the vice president is saying there in that visit. And we saw the Nigerian Governors Forum as well visit the president around this time. You know, everyone talking about how, we've turned the corner. You know, we've crossed the Rubicon. The worst is over. We're on our way to El Dorado. We're almost there. We're almost there. But when you talk to economists and people who actually check the figures, they're like, no, not really. We should actually brace up for maybe even worse days ahead. What's your take on this message of hope in the midst of scary figures from economists?
Well, I mean, as you know, you must always be hopeful, you know, and so as leaders and as leading federal government and government at all levels, officials of government, they have to inspire hope, you know, because whatever they say is quite important. It could be significant for how people think and everything. So to that extent, that is the kind of rhetoric that you must get from them. Whether indeed whatever they are saying actually signposts what is happening, that was a different conversation. And like you said, you know, economists and other experts have taken a different approach. And if you ask people, you know, on the streets, they will have their own, you know, but we do hope that indeed there will be some progress. You know, there is one that nobody can deny. The president also mentioned it in his New Year message. The price of fuel, you know, there has been a, you know, even if marginal drop, you know. So if we continue to have that, you know, and if we are able to solve the problem, especially of food, you know, I mean, food is so central, you know, in my mother tongue, you know, Yoruba language, it says that, and I will translate it says that once food is out of misery, you know, misery is gone. That means if you can feed, you can't be miserable. You can't be. You are not actually poor. You know, once you can feed, poverty is gone. You know, so we need to pay the highest level of urgency and focus on how to make the prices of food come down. And this is where I think the president's collaborating with the governors is very critical, because the governors are in charge of these matters. Agriculture is entirely, totally, completely, you know, well, not completely, because federal government can also play a part, but it's for the most part in the hands of those governors. The governors can incentivize the level of productivity, food productivity to go up, and they can also do something about the prices by ensuring that the factors that contribute to the rising inflation of food prices is curtailed, namely transportation. So there's still a lot that ought to be done, and I will say, in order for the narrative on hope to come close to the reality of the ground, we need to address the problem of poverty, especially that of food.
Well, speaking of food and drug prices, something that the president talked about in his speech, that some companies going to come on board, and not really a lot of details about how it's supposed to work, but its aim, he says, is to lower the cost of food and the cost of drugs in the country. Right. Is that possible? Well,
so it is say that regarding the food productivity, that if we ramp up food production, just basic economics, that if you increase supply, prices will come down. So yes. But a lot of that we have to be, probably what the federal government can do is to incentivize the states. But a lot of it has to be in the hand of the state. And I think the president also made the point, and we've been making this point over and over again. The governors are in charge of the land upon which you can do farming and raise agricultural productivity. So a lot is in the hands of the governors. Now, if that happens, if they deal with the problem of storage, so that when the farmers are actually able to increase productivity, it doesn't get to waste if they're not able to sell it all at the right time. And then if there are arrangements for off-take opportunities, and then of course, like I said, if we try to sort the problem of the produce moving from the farm to the market, which is where also the prices go up. And these are very practical things. These are not rocket science, and we need to keep pushing the governors and federal government supporting them to bring the prices of food. It's possible. It's very possible.
The youth confab will begin in the first quarter of 2025, the president said, a testament to our commitment to youth inclusiveness and investment as nation builders. The Ministry of Youth will soon announce the modalities for selecting the conference's representatives from our diverse youth population. That struck a chord because, of course, the conversation started. We're trying to settle the young people as we get ready for 2027. But then other people also say, no, this is the president's commitment to young people. It's important that they have a conference where young people are able to articulate what it is that they need and come up with some kind of policy document that would drive development and nation building that will impact, again, these young people who are the future of our country.
Absolutely.
But many people very skeptical. And we had the president of the National Youth Council of Nigeria on the program here trying to get what they think the conference is supposed to be about. And we're hearing him talk about, we have ideas as young people. We should have a platform where we can sell these ideas and present these ideas to the government. Is that what it should be focused on?
Well, so the federal government has to do, if we're going to have the confab in the first quarter of the year, the federal government has to roll out, its communication strategy on this confab to explain what is the agenda, of the confab. Now, what I can recollect is that it will seem, and I'm sure this is the right perspective, that the idea of the youth confab followed after the end bad governance protests of August last year. So if that is what it is, then it has to address some fundamental societal issues around politics and governance, actually more about governance. A big part of it has to be how do you, so you want to hear from the youths, what are their concerns about governance. So we are waiting the federal government, particularly in this case, I imagine, the Ministry of Youth, to come out with what is this youth going to be about specifically, so that we can take it out of the realm of speculation. But I think what ought to happen is to have a platform where young people can articulate their own vision for a better, greater Nigeria, that the Nigeria of our dreams, like the president said, even in his own message, and how the youth must play a critical role. I mean, depending on how you categorize the ages, about 70% of the Nigerian population are young people. So this is entirely all about young people, like I said, depending on the age. So it's important for us to understand what it is that we need to do. In my own view, it has to be discussing every and all the issues that can conduce to a Nigeria of our dreams. The lead position, the young people should take a lead in that advocacy, in articulating exactly how we should proceed going forward in this country.
I mean, the Minister of Youth, Ayodele Olawande Wisdom, he's new. October 23rd was when he was
Minister of State before.
He was Minister of State before he was made a substantive minister. And I think this is an opportunity for him, and I think if he's listening right now, that's something he should be thinking about. So the first quarter of this year is going to be about young people.
Yeah.
And his role, I think, the way we look at the Minister of Power and other ministers, I always feel bad for the Minister of Power. Like I say it every day, so that he knows that it's not personal.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, your KPI is one that we can see.
Exactly.
It's right in front of us. If the light is off, you have not done well. If the light is on, you are doing well. So it's a little difficult for him. But also the Minister of Youth. I think he should be seeing that as an opportunity, not so. This year, everyone should be looking at him to see what this confab is, how the recruitment is done. Is there another talk shop? Will it be another political wrangling dance? Is this another way? And of course, the National Youth Council of Nigeria as well, who we had on the program, many people have said they need to be able to build their reputation to where the Nigerian people actually trust them to stand for young people. What do you make of that dynamic?
Okay, so I'm going to come to the youth, but let me say a quick word about what you said about the power minister. What the Minister of Power is not doing, or what we don't see him doing, is holding the people that we are being told are sabotaging the efforts. We haven't seen him hold them responsible. There are no consequences. So we heard last week that the target of 6,000 megawatts wasn't reached because of sabotage. Okay, too bad. So what has happened to that?
Well, two things. Cash backing, he said. Cash backing for subsidy payments and vandalism.
Exactly.
And then, of course, the amount of money, I think 2.something trillion, I hope I'm not getting that wrong, how much money was spent on fixing the vandalized electric towers across the country.
Yeah. So the point is that we need to have consequences. Nigerians need to know that people that are behaving this way are being held responsible. And also the discourse. The Minister of Power has to hold the discourse responsible, in their own area. There's a lot that is going on there. So just I wanted to say that about the Minister of Power. Now come to the Minister of Youth in terms of the organization of this confab. It is important, for the federal government to ensure that this is a credible process. Now, the president has said it in his message that they are going to be selected. I don't think anybody is expecting any other way of doing it. But it's important for it to be done in a way that inspires, some credibility, some confidence, some trust. It's actually an opportunity for the president to build trust with young people. Like we say, about 70% of them are in the population. So it's a very critical population, So how the selection is going to be done, who will be there is very critical. It's very critical. Part of the problem that I see of the Nigerian Youth Council is that while it does have the statutory backing, the Youth Council is yet to establish itself as a credible voice for the young people. And I'm not saying that they can't do this. But they must be intentional about doing that. I mean, when we had the NSAS, protesting, we were in the Nigerian Youth Council, They couldn't stop it.
I mean, the end bad governance protests.
Exactly.
There were videos of them.
Yeah. So it's important. Yeah. It's important that they show themselves, as an organization to be capable of getting the youth sorted out. Now, they don't have to be the one leading the protest. They don't have to be, but they must be the voice. So you can't be having conversations about NSAS, you can't be having conversations about end bad governance, and the Nigerian Youth Council is silent.
I want to go to Ayo.
Well, thank you, Kayla. Mr. Akande, the part of the conversation that we had earlier, I also said this, and thankfully you were with government at the time. 2021, I think it was the Minister of Youth Development at the time that held that National Youth Conference. And part of the conclusion of that National Youth Conference was a document that really spoke to some of the issues that they came up with a plan, actually. That plan was called the National Youth Employment Action Plan. And it was just for year 2021 to 2024. I'm just wondering, but before I take that, let me just put out this information that we have, that there's a live broadcast that's going at Akwa Ibom State Solemn. It's an Akwa Ibom State Solemn Assembly happening today from in a few minutes from now at the International Christian Worship Center, Uyo. It's for our DSTV audience, but if you would like to continue this conversation with us, we'll be with you on other platforms, on YouTube in particular. But for those of us on DSTV, you'll be transiting to that program now. So back to you, Mr. Akande. So between 2021 and 2024, that plan was supposed to be activated. I'm wondering what you think the takeaway from that one was up until this year, which will hopefully inspire others to say, okay, we produced something the last time. Maybe this one will do better.
I remember that that conference, and I think that was just a few days, and it was held at the National Stadium here at the FCT. Now, I know that by the time that came out, I know that there were some, among other developments that came out, I know that the president then increased the allocation because there was supposed to be a National Youth Fund, which the president increased, I think, from probably 50 to 75 billion. It was part of the outcome of that conference. And I think you are right. There are quite a number of other salutary outcomes of that conference, which was put together by Mr. Sunday Dare, who happens to also be one of the presidential spokespeople. But the point is that, the consistency of these interventions is the problem that I see. So one government comes, put down a lot of this stuff that has to happen, begins to do it. Another government comes and, at times, not every time, behaves as if those set of policies are not there. Starts a new thing, has a different focus to which they are entitled. But the part of the problem that I see is the lack of consistency of doing some of these things that ought to, over time, create a significant impact. Look at the issue of social investment, for instance. And this was something that I had the opportunity in the office of the vice president to play a role. Look, between 2016 and 2019, that program, social investment program, had local accolades, national accolades, international accolades. But guess what? 2019, the whole thing got disconnected from source, and up until now, something that ought to have become a game changer, because we couldn't consistently do it over the years, is now mired in a lot of controversies. So part of what we need to do around all of these development strategies and activities and ideas is to be able to do it over a long period, consistently. That's how we can maintain and sustain the development. And it's the same thing around this youth idea. And I hope that now that Mr. Sonny Dare is back in government as a special advisor, he should work with the new Minister of Youth to see how it is that there can be a synergy of what he was trying to do then and what is now being done, so that the Nigerian people, young people can draw benefit, and it can help government to build trust. It can help the president to build mutual trust with young people.
I could go on that subject of trust and communication, but we clearly don't have that time. But I'd like to take you up on just one other issue. The president he received some governors over I think it was yesterday, and of course, members of the National Assembly. I'll speak to that intervention, that conversation with the governors. Good number of governors, I think I counted about 19 of them in a picture that they took together, and saying that, look, no one is going to take charge of your local government administrations for you. You're still going to have to work with them and all of that. But it would seem like there was silence on this vexed issue of tax reforms. I don't know what you think. What do you think informed that one? Was it deliberate, or is it a touchy subject no one wanted to go to in that room? Come on, why are you laughing, Mr. Akande?
Clearly, Hayo, it's a very touchy issue, and honestly, I don't think that it needed to come to that that kind of stuff. It shouldn't be this touchy. You're right. That's the big elephant in the room, and it's why if you look very well at the governors that turned out, quite a number of governors from the north, were absent. Now I'm not saying why that happened, but this is an observation. I mean, we are reporters. What happened on the matter of the tax reform is that there is a lacuna, that lawyers will say, a gap. There has to be a political conversation between the president and other political leaders, stakeholders across the country, especially from the north, where we have seen quite a bit of resistance. I agree entirely with the president that those tax reform bills should go forward, but there still has to be a conversation, a political conversation. The president is right again that the National Assembly is the place to sort this matter out legislatively. That is where the powers is. But there has to be a behind-the-scene negotiation. The absence of that was what led the National Economic Council. Hayo, do you know that it's almost, and I'm being careful about it, it's almost unprecedented that we have National Economic Council come out and give the president a public instruction. The body is, first of all, advisory, and that advisory ought to be done privately, but NEC came out and publicly told the president, pull out those reforms. Now, I don't agree with that. I'm even surprised that, that the vice president sat there and allowed that to happen. I don't know what happened, and I'm not calling him out, but it shows ultimately that there is a political consultation strategy that was not in place or that failed for NEC to come out and say, President, don't do that. And the president got a message immediately. The president said that, no, I'm not pulling it out. So that's the reason why, in his meeting with those governors for the first period, nobody is talking about it.
But the Kano State governor, they're not holding back. At least we're seeing that from the headline from the Daily Trust.
Yes.
Kano State government and the NLC saying, look, withdraw these tax bills. And it does feel like so many people have their own reservations about this one way or the other. But, in closing, where we are, it's our first conversation this year.
Yeah.
It's a year that we're like this. We're like this at the beginning of the year because we don't know we're hopeful, but we don't know. So how do we navigate? How do we take it one step at a time?
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, what I would like to say, Kayla, is that I think the president is shy on addressing the big elephant in the room in this country. Clearly, the president is very shy of that. And my advice to him is not to be shy.
What is this elephant?
Corruption. Corruption. The level of corruption in our society has become corrosive. And you know, when we use the word corrosive, that means it's
eating up.
Yeah, you know, it's eating up the
everything.
entire, you know. And the president is somewhat lackadaisical, in my view, shy, saying, oh, we can use policies to fight it. Look, the president you are in charge now, sir. You can draw the line. And you can say, from this point, no more. And you will be surprised the kind of mutuality that the Nigerian people will connect to if you are able to do that. But continue to ignore the grand corruption, the corrosive corruption, the corruption that is everywhere in this country. Continue to ignore it and continue to say that, okay, well, we have policies. It ain't going to work.
It ain't gonna work.
The language of corruption, especially in this city and across the country, is so thick that nobody can deny that is a huge damage. And the president and the governors must understand that is why there is no trust with the people and the government.
We do have to end it there.
Thank you.
I want to thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Laolu Akande, former presidential aide, for being with us on the program.
Thank
and
you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you
and
too.
I'm looking forward to Inside Sources.
Exactly. We're having our first edition tomorrow.
Oh, yes. So let's see what happens. We do have a lot of messages. Valentine Kwag Chiminin. I hope I got that right, Mr. Valentine. Forgive me if I didn't. He says, what are the plans for diaspora youth participation in the Confab? What technology solutions are being deployed to erase the boundaries of participation? These are some of the issues. Thank you so much, Valentine. Professor Nakena says, the recognition of youth, especially the educated, as key stakeholders in economic development and growth is not merely symbolic. It's a pragmatic acknowledgement of their potential to drive progress and prosperity in an emerging economy like ours. We must continue to advocate for policies that promote youth inclusion for sustainable development and leadership. And then finally, Festus Akimboyewa, while the federal government's proposed youth confab should be applauded, Nigeria should have a youth parliament, he says, where elected youth from different states and regions of our country will have the opportunity to meet at least once a year at the National Assembly to debate and influence decision makers on the issues which matter most to Nigeria's young people. Thank you all very much for your messages, and we're looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds in the days to come. Until tomorrow, have a great day ahead. I'm Kayla Megwa.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Do have a wonderful year ahead.